Peter and I are going to see if Jon can pass a Turing test on today's Not So Critical update.
No, he won't. Okay, we can finish recording now. No, sorry. I love it. Okay. This is a thing that Mike shared a while ago, like a couple of months ago, and I'm not sure if we talked about it before already as part of another story. But basically, so the way to the term to determine whether an artificial intelligence is sentient or not is I think called the Turing Test, and it was invented by a guy called Alan Turing, who's amazing for lots of different reasons. But anyway, he was a pioneer of computer science. And the rough guide is if you can convince a bunch of people that if a computer can convince a bunch of people that it's a real person, it's passed. It's the kind of gist of it. It's not accurate for lots of different reasons because there's ways you can game it. And this article in Gizmodo is 8 alternatives to it. And there's some really interesting ones in there. Like one of my favorite ones used to be called the Ikea test, but is now called, I think, the construction test or something like that. And basically, if you give some Ikea instructions to...
You cut out. You're muted, Peter.
Oh, yeah, Peter's gone. So we brought this up. We'll let Peter work on his technology problems in the background.
Yeah, when did I cut out?
Just a second ago. We brought this up on the tails of the Lambda story from Google. So it wasn't that long ago. We just didn't get to this in our coverage of that. But we kind of acknowledged that we thought this was interesting to come back to. We think, I think maybe misapplied in the Lambda case. I'm not totally buying it. Although there's some creepy stuff in there for sure. What I like about these tests is like, it stands out that it's kind of depends on the ambiguity of the problem. Yeah. Like the IKEA test, Jesus, I couldn't pass that. I don't.
Wait, but I didn't hear the end. I didn't hear the end description of the IKEA test, Peter. What? So you hand instructions
to an AI, and you ask it. I think it's what's going to be built, or what if it can build it. It's for construction robots, so like Lego robots or something like that.
Sure.
And you give them instructions to say build this thing, and it's can it do it or not?
Yeah, well, I'm an IKEA expert.
Okay. All right. Okay, buddy.
All right. Hand me instructions. That thing is built in 30.
I had some issues with a couple of these tests as well, because I think that there are types of people who may interpret things differently. One in particular was it showed an image of a desk with a chair behind it and a kind of placemat on the desk and then a cup of coffee there, I think it was. And the question is, where is the cup of coffee? And there's a multiple choice thing, and the options are on the desk, on the mat, in front of the chair, or in the room, or something like that. And they're all technically correct, but the one that most humans would answer is desk. Exactly, yeah. So
not a robot.
It's like, yeah, exactly. So how what's the most human response?
Sure.
But I think there are some people I know who would say on the mat or something like that, because that's the most technically correct, or something like that. Especially autistic
that's what it's
people.
touching, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I didn't like that ones, but yeah, like Mike said, I like the fact that they were kind of like ambiguous and that they were open to interpretation, and I think that's what all the tests are sort of trying to solve for.
One that I thought was interesting in the context of the Lambda discussion was the Lovelace test. And the description is that if the artificial intelligence passes if it can develop a creative artifact from a subset of artistic genres. And it made me think of the in the Lambda conversation, the transcript, he'd asked Lambda to come up with a parable or a story that included animal characters and a moral to the story at the end. And it was pretty compelling. That was, in reading through the transcript, that was one of the moments where I was like, oh, this thing is kind of spooky. Right?
One of the interesting things about the Lambda system was that it wasn't just a sync. Well, I think this might be a semantic or a technical distinction, but it wasn't a single AI. It was a whole bunch of different chatbots behind the scene, and the Lambda itself was like, it sort of queried all of them and merged the results together.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so it was like the Eliza chatbot, and then fucking Siri, and I don't know, all the other ones behind it, and then it kind of synthesized them into an answer, which I thought is genius, and it's sort of how humans work in a way. Like you're a result of all the conversations that you've had in your life. But here's the thing about AI, right? I quite like the original one. Like, if you can convince other people that you're an AI, that you're a sentient, that's enough, and that's all that really matters. It can be gamed, but only if you're trying to game it. But if you're not trying to game it, then I think it's a good result.
One
and
of
also
the comments.
Also, just there we go. Yeah, excellent. There's always an XKCD, right?
So on the screen, for anybody who's listening while driving or on podcast, one of the comments was a cartoon that said the Turing Test extra credit is to convince the examiner that he's a computer.
Yeah, I think that
which people are always trying to do to me for some reason.
This term, the AI, is wrong. I think it needs to change from artificial intelligence to just intelligence. I think that one of the only key differences between artificial intelligence and us is that you can turn off an AI, but you can also turn it back on again, which is fascinating. I think it's very difficult to it's really kill or destroy one because it's made up of so many different systems. But you can stop it, you can halt it, but then you can start it up again. And when it gets to that point, or really it's a sort of cosmetic, like biological differences, that actually what's going on and what's happening, the interactions are real.
Right.
I think.
Because you can't turn us off without permanently turning us off.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Maybe I've been reading too much sci-fi lately. I don't know, but
there's definitely a joke there regarding being turned off, but whatever.
Say, tell that to my wife.
Yeah. Yeah, there we go. Boom.
Nice.
Hey,
shout out to my wife.
That I can't be turned off.
Did I dox you again?
Well, like basically, you could make a copy.
Do you care, Peter?
Kill the process, but you could and then delete the original, but you could then start up the new copy.
Well, yeah, but like
isn't
it's
that
like
cloning?
Meta and how they're unable to actually fully delete stuff because a piece of data, because it's part of so many different systems. It's such a difficult thing to delete data or algorithms because it's an AI isn't really any one thing. It's the data source, it's the models that have been run, it's the training that's happened, it's the systems that have the interpretation, it's the lexical interpretation.
So you're really just a combination of a bunch of peter.sh files, huh?
The same way we're not just brains or we're not just minds, but we're a whole thing.